with the comedy clubs, I was on the radio every week,
Wow.
being interviewed and whatever.
Yes. So you probably seen a lot of different styles of interviews.
Right.
Mine is kind of like if Barbara Walters was fun. So that's all I aim to do is make this fun and painless. Facebook, you're here, we're here. Look who's in the house. Ross Bennett.
Hey.
Oh my gosh, she's over there in that square. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. Let me read your introduction to people, Ross. Ross Bennett is proud of the following accomplishments, and you should be too, Facebook. He's a former West Point cadet. Yes, thank you for your service. He's appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman. Wow. How cool is that, you guys? His appearances on A&E's Evening at the Improv under 2 different names. Got to hear about that. His marriage took place on the main room stage of the Comedy Store in LA and was covered by Entertainment Tonight. Give me a break. Is that cool? He was seen on the web series Addicted to Show Business, where I can't read, where he won the 2016 LA Web Fest's Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Web Series. So take that, Facebook. All of us comedians look up to him. He's had 14 million views and still counting on his Dry Bar special. Welcome to the Little Tiny Comic Spot stage. Your favorite and mine, Ross Bennett. Woo!
Yay. Thank you, Linda. That's sweet. Thank you very much.
You bet. What do you want to say about the pandemic where you live?
Well, I got to tell you, it hasn't greatly affected my life. I know it's been horrible out there for a lot of people.
Yep.
But I don't work. It's not like the old days where I was out working, 40 weeks a year, 6 nights a week in the clubs,
Jeez.
Around the country. It's not like when I used to do cruises. A lot of that work I've stopped doing. And now I basically just do corporate events and private functions and the like. And I have not done a show since March 7th, but it wasn't like I was doing 10 a week, So, I mean, it's, I'm anxious to work again, but I've got other things going on other than a life where it's every day is doing stand-up. And I've been very fortunate. I teach a class. I teach 2 classes now.
Wow.
And for the Manhattan Comedy School.
Okay.
Manhattan Comedy School.
Okay.
And one of them is Comedy Writing Boot Camp,
Okay.
which is it's a 6-week intensive where I get them to create material. It's really, the whole thing is about creating material as opposed to writing jokes. It's about creating material.
Okay.
And once everything switched over to Zoom, for my classes are on Zoom, but the performances switched over to Zoom. I now have a class that specializes just in performing live in online streaming platforms like Zoom. It's all about, and that one is just taking off.
Wow.
Because I would watch shows and I would see some people who looked good and some people who didn't. And it's like, this is something we can learn. So I got that going on. My son was just married last weekend.
Congratulations on
last
that.
Friday. And
Mazel tov.
Thank you. And they weren't able to have they had to reduce the number of people. It was 25 people at the wedding, spread out through a church, and but we put some tents up in the back of the house, and we had the reception for 25 people here. They originally wanted it much bigger, but that's all that we could do. And so we had a wonderful, wonderful time. I'm very fortunate.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So like I said, I'm aware. I go out. I got to put on a mask to go into a store, go into the post office. But I'm not it hasn't affected me as much as it has many people. I mean, I don't have a child in the house. I don't have, nobody's going to school. So there, did I answer your question?
Yes, that's what you're doing during the pandemic. You have the Manhattan Comedy School class, and then you have the online performing on streaming media that you're doing, and
Right.
you have a family and a life. Can't get any better, right?
No, you can't.
Yeah, you're in touch with all that. So, what do you have to say to people coming up way behind you in the biz? 'Cause there's new comics and people with 35, 40 years watching, not right this minute, but they will by the end of the day and beyond. What do you have to say to people about anything show business that you've learned, that you people, what are the typical things people ask you? They go, "Oh, Ross, let me pick your brain. Oh, let me suck up to you. Can you put me on a show?" What do people say to you?
Well, by the way, do I sound good? We didn't get to do a
Yes,
sound check. Okay, good.
you sound
The
great.
So here's my story, Linda.
Okay,
Is uh, I graduated high school in '73. I enlisted in the Army.
thank you.
Uh,
Me too.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, 73
Congrat-
to 76. Where and when were you?
Wow, this is great.
Thank
I
you.
went through basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Whoa.
Okay, and then one thing led to another. And as an enlisted man, the Army eventually sent me to West Point as a cadet. They thought that I might be a good officer. And so I went to West Point prep school from 74 to 75. And then I joined the academy in the class of 79 in the summer of 1975.
Wow.
And I lasted about a year and a half. And here's what happened, Linda. Remember what happened in 1975? A couple of things happened. Number one, Saturday Night Live, a little thing called Saturday Night Live. And so we're the same age, we're the same generation. When that thing hit, it was like, my gosh, people my age were having so much fun being funny.
I know it, right?
And I grew up watching, the comedians on TV, the Robert Kleins and the George Carlins and the Bob Newharts and everything. But then you have Steve Martin, who explodes and become the biggest comedian in the country. And I'll tell you, and I'd always loved doing shows and stuff like that. I always loved doing musicals and the like, anytime I had a chance to do that.
Wow.
And I just I couldn't let go of it. There were some people at the academy who could have something like that be what would you call it, an avocation, have it be something that they enjoyed doing, but it wasn't the main focus of their life. For me, I needed it to be everything. And so in February of 77, I resigned from the academy. And it's been, I tell you, it's bittersweet. Even to this day, 43 years ago, and I still think about those times fondly. And I'm aware that you can't have two lives. Okay. I'm aware you can't have two lives. What is your Facebook page, by the way?
Linda Marcus Smith. I tagged you in the post,
Good.
and it said you shared it. Let me see.
I
Yeah.
did, but the only reason I'm asking is people are clicking on me, asking for what the page is. I'm going to just put Linda
Marcus Smith, 3 words. And I have the picture of Bobby Rydell and Sinbad as my avatar, because
Right.
there's a lot of different Linda Smiths.
You have to accept my friends who want to join, though.
I think they can watch without being my friend.
Oh yeah, how do they watch?
I make it public. I made it public. So they just go on my Facebook or yours, and they should be able to see it. Let me go look
Okay.
at your page and see if it's on there. We always have to check up on Zuckerberg. Have you noticed? Yeah. Yes. And you know what Zuckerberg means in English?
What?
Sugar mountain. Isn't that cocaine?
Uh, you are of my generation, Linda.
Mhm.
So what happens, I get out of the academy and I go down to Florida where I'd gone to high school. And I went to Florida Atlantic University for 1 year studying theater. And I was playing around doing stand up at some clubs in the Fort Lauderdale area. And what happens is I meet a guy after a show in March of '78, and his name was Ted Holum. And he was a comic a few years older than I was. And we did a show, we smoked a joint, and he said, you know, you're very funny. If you move up to Chicago, I have two clubs that were workshops, weren't really comedy clubs, they're workshops. He goes, I can put you on stage 10 times a week. I can't pay you, but I'll put you on stage 10 times a week. And literally within 2 weeks, I dropped out of my third college. I sold the few possessions I had that had any kind of value. And I took out a one-way flight and I went up to Chicago. I lived in the suburbs of Chicago. From there, I put an act together within a few months. And by the late summer, I went out to San Francisco and I did the San Francisco Comedy Competition in '78. I made it to the semis. I sort of made a little name for myself there in that scene. And long story short, by January of '79, I moved down to Los Angeles. Okay.
That's fast
So,
track.
And I lived there for 5 years. Now, timing is everything. Okay. I believe that the '70s, the mid '70s, 75 to 80, it was the gold rush for comedians.
Yes.
It was like, because there's so many people my age, my generation, it was like we were hearing the drum beats, that there was this thing going on. You know, we all had this, you know, we're watching these things and we all just get drawn into this. And these clubs start to pop up. We start getting some stage time. And so my contemporaries, you know, are everybody from like Seinfeld to Louis Anderson to Tim Allen to Drew Carey. You know, these are all, if you will, they, and all of us, I always tell people, all of us were shooting for that level of success.
Right.
Okay. And of course, we're not all able to get to that level of success. Now, there's some people I know who, if they didn't get to that, it was like, screw it, I'm out of here. Okay. They were looking for that fast and easy buck, you know. But for those of us who are really comics inside, these clubs opened up. We started going out on the road. We were doing all these sets. It was like vaudeville, doing 10 shows a week or 9 shows a week. And we all became very proficient at being modern professional stand-up comics, you know, so that after 3-4 years, you could pretty much just put me in the whole thing. They don't know me. The audience doesn't know me really. But you say, ladies and gentlemen, Ross Bennett, I can go up and within 2 minutes, I got him and I can do 45 minutes. Okay. And I got lots of friends, you know, some of them have, you know, gone different levels and all this, you know, Jeff Allen's doing very well. But, you know, and Jeff Jenna, I mean, there's just a lot of guys. I can't go through the list. So
yeah,
that's what drew me into this.
Okay.
All right. I did this because I had to.
Exactly.
And that's the only reason I got good. I left myself no other options. There was nothing else I could imagine doing. So I meet people, young people today, people who want to do this and whatever. And I don't know what to tell them because, you know, it's a different world now. I think there's a lot of them that I know who want to do it, but they're not willing to. You got to let go of the dock in order to go swimming, you know.
Wow.
And they don't want to necessarily let go of the dock. So their world is different. Their process is different of how they get their stage time, how they get. But I find if they want to do it and they have they have the skills for it, the basic, they have the basic talent, the ability to acquire the skills, they figure out a way. All right. I teach these classes, and I know a lot of teachers who have different, comics, once again, like myself, have been around for quite a while, who are teaching classes, and they have different philosophies on it. Mine is a supportive environment. All right. They don't need me to beat them up.
Thank you.
Okay. They're going to get plenty of that if they get stage time. Okay.
Totally.
I try and teach them how to create material. I try and steer them away from being hacks. I don't have a problem with blue material per se, but I encourage them to not, in my class, to not create blue material, because if you do that, you never find out if it's quality material. My whole thing with the students I teach is I want it to be quality material. All right. You want the kind of material because, I remember when I was at the Comedy Store, there was hundreds and hundreds of comics coming out and auditioning. Okay. Very few of them passed. I passed at the Improv and at the Comedy Store. But even once I passed, because I was very good at getting response from an audience, I had some interest from agents and those kind of folks, some producers and the like, but I couldn't really get to that next level. I couldn't get the Tonight Show. Remember when I auditioned for the Tonight Show for Jim McCauley, he said, I didn't see anything I thought was funny. And I didn't see anything and I definitely didn't see anything that Johnny would think was funny. Okay. And it crushed me. It crushed me. But what I realize now, this guy has seen 1,000 comedians. What is it that's going to stand out to him? All right. And it ends up being quality material. And I had some good jokes, but obviously when Seinfeld came out, this guy had like 45 minutes of material that he had spent 4 years developing in Manhattan before he even came out there. Okay. And the people who hit the road, hit that stage with quality material made a big, big difference. So, have I answered your questions?
Yes. So when people come up to you, young comics, they out themselves as younger comics than you. Do they ask the same kind of things, or do they want to hang out with you, or have you give them connections? What drives you nuts about how people come up to you who are comics?
Oh, it's not really an issue for me. If I was to be realistic about this,
Mhm.
or accurate,
Yeah.
you have to understand. My career had a lot of hills and valleys.
Okay.
I changed my name twice. Okay. I worked as Ross Bennett, and then I worked as Eddie Strange from about from 85 to about 88. I went back to Ross Bennett for a couple of years. I went back to Eddie Strange from about 91 until 2000. And I spent most of the 90s over in England, performing a lot over in the UK. And in 2000, I decided to do a hard restart of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved to New York. Actually, I'm in New Jersey, but I'm outside of Manhattan, right outside of Manhattan. And I decided to restart my career, let go of my ego, and just start over again. And I was 45, and I got into the clubs, which was at that time, to be 45 and to break into those clubs, it was not a lot of guys did it.
Comic Strip Live,
Right.
they'll say.
The truth is, a lot of road comics would come and try and audition, but they hadn't grasped the idea that a 5-minute showcase set is not 5 minutes out of your road act. Okay. It's different, So I had worked for a good year in my mind, the idea of what's the best 5 minutes of jokes. and that are smart jokes, that have nice, that are consistent and have a nice edge to them. So when I auditioned at the comic strip, they immediately wanted me to work there. Changed my
Wow.
life. I was 45 years old, and it just got me. It changed my life. I really did. Lucian
Wow.
Hold was his name. Lucian Hold was the guy who was the talent coordinator, and he befriended me. We became great friends. We played golf together, had dinner together. We hung out a lot. And those 3 years, he passed away, I think, about 3 or 4 years later. But those were great times for me, and it really helped set me up. And so then,
Gladys Simon is my coach.
oh, Gladys. Ask Gladys. Have you had Gladys on your show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, ask Gladys about me. I was never somebody who went to her open mics and stuff like that.
No.
Because I was already, pretty much fully formed. However,
Yeah.
she's always been very nice to me, very supportive. She's a sweetheart.
She is.
So when people come up to me these days, they're very respectful. Okay. They're only going to come up to me if they've seen me on something. And I don't have I walk down the street. I don't have a big, there's not a giant group of people who know Ross, but there are some people who know Ross, and a lot of them are comics, young comics, because they're on the YouTube. They're looking for things. They're on the YouTube. I don't believe I just said they're on the YouTube. Take me out and shoot me. They're looking at comics on YouTube. And so they've seen my Letterman. They've seen some of my Evening at the Improvs. And then this Dry Bar special.
Yeah.
I've got 2 CDs that have done very well. They've been played the hell out of it on Sirius XM. God bless Sirius XM. And so I do have people who are aware of what I do, and when they come up, they're familiar with me,
Mm-hmm.
and they're, like I say, they're very respectful. It makes me feel older than I really want to feel like I am.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll call me Mr. Bennett. And I said, my name is Ross. Just come over here and talk to me. And I tell them a lot of times, I said, this is something that if you want to do it, you have to do it. If there's anything else that can make you happy, you should probably do it, because most people can't handle the 5, 6, 7 years it really takes to get good.
Yeah.
To really get, to get the child. Now, some people can do it a lot easier, a lot quicker, but I'm telling you, most of them, it's a long time to get the experience you need to be able to do this. And I said, so if you have to do this, you'll do it. And I wish them the best. Sometimes I'll look at their act, and, I remember one time at the Comedy Store, and I lived in LA from the first time from 79 to 84.
Okay.
And so at the Comedy Store, I think it was the summer of 80.
Okay.
Richard Pryor was putting together his Live on Sunset Strip concert. Okay.
Wow.
And he had done the one Richard Pryor live in concert a year before I got there. So, and that one has very successful. So then he's going to put together a show for another concert, the Live on Sunset Strip. That's the one where he's wearing the red suit. Okay.
Yep.
And what happens is he shows up and he just starts going up on stage with virtually no material.
Wow.
He's so raw. He's so insecure. He's very uncomfortable, but he starts telling a couple of stories, a couple of this, a couple of that, and he starts to get a couple of laughs. All right. And then he comes back the next night, and those pieces have been saved and other things have been added to it. And he ends up, and Paul Mooney's with him, and he's got some other people in his crew that are kind of hanging with him, writing, and the next 2.5, 3 months, at the end of it, he's got an hour and 20 minutes of killer material.
Jeez. Killer material.
Okay. And I've always considered that period of time to be sort of I got a master class from Richard Pryor.
Yes.
All right. That's how I look at it. But he was there. The great thing about comics is that we all do this, whether you're Jerry Seinfeld or me, we do the same thing. He makes 30, $40 million a year. I make $30,000 or $40,000 a year. Okay. But essentially we're doing the same thing. All right. And so if we hang out, if we're at a table together at some comedy club waiting to go up, we've got things that we can talk about. All right.
Yes.
We share that experience because you can't, even if you're a giant star like Richard Pryor, but if you're coming to a comedy club, you're still going to be around comics.
It's true.
Okay. And comics have this common bond. I remember one time I went on before him and I come off and he's waiting to go up and he just says, "That's very funny. Very nice show." Okay. Now, did he have to say that? No.
No.
But he knew instinctively that it means something when he says something like that, okay, to somebody who's like 23, 24 years old. And so I always try and be respectful of young comics.
Nice.
You know,
That's very nice.
I don't want to lie to them, but I don't need to be a jerk either. And so I always try and be supportive.
That's awesome. I
You know,
love
and
hearing this.
And that has carried over into my classes that I teach. I try and be supportive. I try and find the things about them that are special, because my big thing is originality. I want them to find that thing in them that they think is funny, and then figure out how to tell that to an audience of people and get them to laugh. Yeah.
Your classes, how affordable are they? Are you open to talking about that here, or do you want us to go?
It's if you go to ManhattanComedySchool.com, ManhattanComedySchool.com, you look at the classes. He's got Andy Engels had the school for 20 years, and
I had him on.
Oh, good. Karen Bergreen, she teaches the beginner's class. Karen is wonderful. We've known each other for 20 years now. She hasn't gotten older, but I have. And I know DC Benny.
I love him. He was on.
And he teaches a
storytelling.
Yeah.
A master
and
at it.
I got my classes that I teach. So you go on there. I think it's $3.99 for 6 classes, and they're 3-hour classes. Okay. For my comedy writing boot camp, and it's $4.50 for my live performance, my performing live on Zoom. You know, learning. I call it stand-up boot camp level 2, mastering performance on Zoom.
Wow.
All right. So that's how those things. That's the situation with those.
Do you ever help people one-on-one with their sets to make them match?
I do coaching sessions, and
they find you.
First off, I got to tell you, I never wanted to teach, Linda.
Is that right?
I never wanted to teach. I'd always, what's the old joke?
Those who teach can't.
Those who can.
You can't. Those who can't.
Those who can do. Those who can't teach. Those who can't teach driver's ed. Remember that? It's not my joke. It was like, I remember hearing guys say that, whoever said it. But I never wanted to be a teacher because I didn't want to be considered someone who wasn't working. All right. And I have a line in my act about people thinking I look like I'm a teacher. And a couple of jokes about it. What's his name? Sherrod Small. You know Sherrod Smalls?
I know the name.
I always used to open up and I would say, people say I look like I'm a teacher. And then I'd say, settle down. Okay, settle down. So some people say that he could look like I'm a teacher. And then one night at the comic strip, Sherrod says, "You look like the science teacher they thought smoked pot. You look like the science teacher who smoked pot." And I took that line and I incorporated it into my act. I've been doing it now for 20 years. And it always, I say, Some people think I look like I'm a teacher. They say I look like the science teacher they suspected might have smoked pot, right? That's right, class. Today, we're going to use our Bunsen burners differently. All right. Not a great, are you still there? Did you freeze up? What happened, Linda? You froze on me. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Can you see me? Can you text me? Help. Let me see. I'm going to stop and rejoin. That's all I can think of to do. Hold on.